The pounding on the clinic door came like a thunderclap, sharp, violent, and wrong. Draven Vex, the last medic left in the outpost town of Emberstrand, rose from behind his desk, his sidearm already in hand. The quake of impact rattled the ceiling tiles, and one of the surgical trays clattered to the floor. The pounding came again, along with a voice. Female. Strained. "Open the door, damn it!" He eased toward the door and peered through the slit. What he saw froze his breath. Collapsing against the threshold was not a human, but her. A vulpine. She was tall and lethal-looking, her armor scorched and torn. Her fur was a vibrant blaze of orange, streaked with soot and blood. She clutched the frame with one trembling hand, the other gripping a sidearm that was half-cocked and wobbling. But it was the injury that made Draven's stomach twist, a jagged arrow shaft embedded deep in the curve of her left hip, near the rear, grotesque and glowing faintly with pulsing violet energy. "Take it out," she hissed. Her knees buckled. Draven opened the door wider, letting her stumble inside. He aimed the pistol low, cautious. "You're a Volcari." "One of theirs." Her lip curled. "Not anymore. They left me to die." He took one step forward, then another, until he was close enough to see the blood trickling from the shaft down her leg. "You've got 5 seconds to convince me not to finish the job your people started," he said flatly. She looked up, teeth clenched. "Because I'll make sure you die screaming if you don't help me." His gaze flicked back to the wound. The arrowhead pulsed again. "I'd be impressed," he muttered, pulling on his gloves. "That's one hell of a place to take a hit." Her claws tightened. "Laugh again, human, and I'll tear out your spine." Draven smirked. "Noted. Now bend over the table." Her glare could have flayed steel, but she limped to the surgical bench and braced herself on it. Her tail flicked sharply aside, exposing the wound. "What the hell kind of arrow is this?" he muttered, inspecting it. "Barbed ion tip, slow burn core. Jesus, this isn't meant to kill. It's meant to torture." "Stop talking," she growled. "And pull." He paused, then met her eyes. "Name?" "Zyria." He nodded. "Draven." Then he leaned in, gloved fingers brushing her fur lightly around the shaft. Her breath caught. The area shimmered, skin glowing faintly wherever he touched. He paused. "Huh. That's new. Say another word," she warned, "and I'll bite your damn fingers off." He gripped the arrow firmly. "On 3. Don't you?" He yanked. Zyria's scream split the clinic. Zyria's scream echoed off the clinic walls before dissolving into a low, guttural snarl. She slumped forward on the table, both hands white-knuckled on the edges. Her body trembled violently. Draven tossed the arrow aside. It clattered across the floor, its ion core still hissing with residual charge. "You're lucky that didn't rupture your spine," he muttered, reaching for his med-gel. "I'd have preferred it," she rasped. "This humiliation is worse. Remind me to feel bad later," Draven said, squeezing a line of glowing blue gel across the wound. "Right now I'm trying to keep your blood inside your body." The moment the gel touched her skin, it fizzled, then bubbled violently. Draven froze. "That's not normal." Zyria twisted her head to glare over her shoulder. "What do you mean not normal?" "The gel's rejecting. Your biology's fighting it like it's poison." He grabbed his med scanner and ran it over her hip. Data bloomed across the small hollow display, alien code, dense genetic structures pulsing with red flags. "Son of a bitch," he murmured. "This isn't standard Volcari DNA. You've been modified." She looked away, jaw tightening. "What the hell did they do to you?" Zyria didn't answer. "Your wound's not healing because of this. It's sabotage. Your body's coded to reject any non-Volcari treatment. Standard meds are useless." He stepped in front of her, holding up the scanner like a weapon. "Whoever did this didn't just want you to suffer. They wanted to make sure if you ever got cut off from them, you'd die." Zyria finally spoke, voice low. "They call it loyalty. I call it a leash." Draven set the scanner down slowly. There's got to be a workaround. Something your body won't reject. There is, she said after a pause. But it requires an enzyme your species has. Something in human blood. Draven blinked. You need a transfusion? No, she said, grimacing. I need your blood directly. Not through filtration. Just raw. A long pause. Let me get this straight, he said. You want to drink my blood? She didn't flinch. If I don't, I bleed out. Your call. Draven rolled up his sleeve without hesitation. Fine. Just don't bite too hard. He turned, grabbed a sterile syringe, and filled it slowly from a vein in his arm. When it was full, he pressed the tip to her lips. Saeria hesitated. Draven's voice dropped. Unless you'd rather die proud. Her glare softened, just for a second. Then she took the syringe. The moment the human blood hit her system, her back arched violently. Draven staggered, clutching the table as something surged through the air, through him. A pulse. Like electricity, but deeper. Their breaths hitched at the same time. Saeria's eyes flew open. What the hell was that? Draven's fingers trembled. Some kind of resonance. Our systems synced. She was breathing hard, trembling against the table. Her skin glowed again, but differently this time. The shimmer was steady, rhythmic. Draven met her eyes. You felt it too? No, she said sharply. He laughed once. Liar. She shoved herself up, nearly collapsing in the process. Draven caught her arm without thinking. Through the bond. Whatever the hell it was, he felt the echo of her pain, her fury, and something else. Something raw. Saeria shoved off the table, teeth bared. Don't touch me. Draven stepped back, hands up. You're welcome. This changes nothing. Right. Except you're not dead and glowing like a reactor core. Her markings flared in response, thin, radiant lines racing down her spine, pulsing orange gold beneath her fur. Draven caught himself staring. She noticed. You keep looking at me like that, human, I'll gut you. I'm a medic, he said, smirking. Anatomy fascinates me. Don't flatter yourself. The scanner in the corner beeped. Draven glanced over and stiffened. Perimeter alarm. Saeria's ears perked. Scouts? He turned to the console, watching heat signatures bloom on the display. 6 bodies, approaching in formation. Military precision. That's not local raiders. They're Volcari, she said immediately, moving beside him. Not mine. They followed me. You weren't kidding about being betrayed. She said nothing, but her claws clicked against the metal table. Draven grabbed her wrist. We need to hide you. Where? I'm twice your size, and bright orange. He pressed a panel on the wall. A compartment hissed open, tall, narrow, and lined with shielding. Stasis capsule. Used for volatile medical storage. Not comfortable. But it'll hide your heat sig. Saeria stared at it. I'm not cowering in a box. Then stay out here and let them cut you down. Your pride, your funeral. Her tail lashed. You think you can just order me? He stepped in close, towering over her. If you get caught, you're not the only one who dies. I'll be executed for sheltering you. So get in. Or I swear I'll shove your fluffy ass in there myself. She growled. You wouldn't dare. He grabbed her hips, spun her, and pushed her into the compartment before she could finish the threat. Saeria let out a snarl but didn't fight. The hatch sealed with a sharp thunk, throwing them into darkness. The capsule was smaller than Draven remembered. His chest pressed against her back. Her fur was warm, damp with plasma rinse and blood. One wrong move, she hissed in the dark, and I'll neuter you. Noted, he murmured. But for the record, you're the one pushing into me. Her elbow jabbed his ribs. I swear to the stars. Shh. Footsteps outside. 6 of them. The clinic door creaked open. Saeria tensed against him. Through the bond, he felt her instinct coil, ready to explode. Her pulse was a thunder in his ears, but not just hers. His, too. Linked. The soldiers moved through the clinic. Cabinets were thrown open. Footsteps echoed. A voice muttered something in Volcari. Then silence. Boots retreating. The clinic door slammed shut. The tension drained from Zairia's frame first. Then from his. They were still tangled, breath mingling, heartbeat against heartbeat. "This still means nothing," she whispered. Draven smirked, lips brushing her ear. "Funny. You keep saying that." The hatch hissed open, pale light spilling into the capsule. They emerged, blinking. She stepped away first. Her fur still shimmered faintly. "You're burning up," Draven said. "Literally." "I told you," she muttered. "I'm fine. You're glowing like a star core, and you just fused blood with a human. That's not fine." She didn't argue. Instead, she stumbled. Draven caught her again, this time gently. Zairia slumped into Draven's arms, her breath hitching against his chest. "You're burning alive," he muttered, guiding her to the med table. "Whatever that bond did, whatever's happening inside you, it's not done." "I said I'm fine," she hissed. "And I said sit down?" She resisted, barely, before her knees gave way. Draven eased her back onto the table, brushing damp fur from her brow. Her markings were flickering now, erratic pulses of orange and red that glowed brighter the closer he came. "This isn't normal," he said. "You're overheating. Your system's spiking. I can handle it. You passed out in a stasis box." Briefly. Draven grabbed his scanner and passed it over her torso. The screen spiked into the red, core temperature off the charts. Her blood chemistry was mutating again, shifting. Integrating something. Or rejecting it. "Your body's still trying to fuse with mine," he said aloud. "My blood, it didn't just save you. It triggered a reaction." Her claws curled into the table. "Then reverse it." He gave a short laugh. "You think I have a manual for soul bonding with an alien foxgirl?" She growled. "I'm serious," he said, meeting her eyes. "Whatever this is, it's rewriting both of us. I feel it. Your heat. Your pain. Even your thoughts, when they spike hard enough." Her gaze dropped. "I didn't ask for this." "Neither did I." Her chest rose and fell in a sharp rhythm. Her eyes glowed faintly, lips trembling between words she didn't say. Then she whispered, "Varric." Draven stiffened. "What?" "Varric put the arrow in me," she said, voice brittle. "My commander. My mate." Draven's jaw clenched. "The one who left you for dead. He said I was compromised. That my loyalty had drifted. Because you question him?" Her silence answered that. Draven's hand hovered near her shoulder. "So he tried to kill you?" Zairia stared up at the cracked ceiling. "He didn't miss." The glow of her markings dimmed. She closed her eyes. "That arrow, it wasn't just punishment. It was exile. Slow death, so no one would help me. My squad wouldn't dare. And I wasn't supposed to make it this far." "Well," Draven said, voice tight. "Sucks for him." She glanced at him. "You're not scared?" "I'm a human medic in the middle of an alien war zone, bonded to a Vulpine war machine who threatens to claw my face off every other sentence. No, I'm way past scared." Zairia snorted. Then winced. "Damn it. That hurt." "Serves you right," Draven muttered, loading a syringe with a sedative. "Don't you dare. It'll lower your temperature, ease the pain, keep you from cooking your brain. If you knock me out, I'll shred your throat when I wake up." He held the injector above her neck. "Promise?" She snarled, but the heat in her skin was scalding now, and her claws twitched with tremors. "You're overheating," he said softly. "You're strong, Zairia. But this isn't about strength. It's survival." She hesitated. Then closed her eyes and turned her head, exposing her throat. Draven pressed the injector to her neck. Hiss. Her body jerked once, then slowly, her muscles eased. Her breathing evened. Her fur shimmered gently instead of blazing. He stayed beside her as she drifted under, her claws twitching faintly in her sleep. Through the bond, he saw flickers, memories not his own. A training field bathed in red light. A face like stone and shadow, Varric. A promise made in blood, broken in betrayal. He clenched his jaw. "We're going to kill him," he whispered. Zaire woke with a sharp intake of breath, bolting upright on the med table. Draven was already standing nearby, arms crossed, eyes on her like a hawk. "You're awake." Her claws flexed as she ran a hand through her tangled mane. "You sedated me." "I kept you alive," he corrected. Again. She blinked slowly. Her eyes still glowed, but her pulse had steadied, her markings more controlled, steady patterns instead of wild flares. "The fever's broken," she muttered. "Your blood, it's still changing me." Draven didn't move. "And me." Zaire swung her legs off the table and stood. Her balance was better, fluid, almost predatory. She flexed her fingers, noting the strength in her grip, the reduced ache in her hip. "You're healing faster now," he said. "Faster than any Volcari should." She turned to him. "It's because of you." Draven smirked faintly. "You're welcome." Then, without warning, Zaire lunged. Draven ducked, instincts flaring, catching her wrist and pinning her to the wall in a single motion. The crash of the impact knocked a tray off the nearby counter. "What the hell are you doing?" he growled. Her teeth bared in a grin. "Testing the bond." "You trying to kill me?" "If the bond makes us stronger," she said, pushing off the wall with renewed strength. "Prove it." She twisted in his grip, catching him off guard, and sent him stumbling. He rolled with it, barely keeping his footing. So this was how it was going to be. He launched forward. She ducked, pivoted, and kicked, but he caught her leg, spun, and shoved her into the metal wall with a heavy clang. Her claws reached for his throat, but he slammed his forearm across her chest, holding her firm. They were inches apart. Breathing hard. Skin to fur. Pulse to pulse. Zaire's smirk deepened. "Not bad for a medic. You fight dirty." "It's the only way I fight." Draven pressed closer. "Yield. Make me." She twisted suddenly, hip grinding into his, forcing him back a step. Her claws caught the edge of his vest, nearly ripping it off before he grabbed her wrists and pinned them above her head. For a moment they didn't move. Didn't speak. Their breathing was too loud. The bond between them throbbed with raw, volatile energy. Not just tension. Not just survival. Something far more dangerous. "This bond," she whispered, her voice low and rough. "It's a weakness." "It's a weapon," he replied. Zaire's gaze flicked to the door as the clinic sensors let out a warning ping. Movement outside. "Company," she said. Draven stepped back, grabbing his rifle. "How many?" She moved to the console, fur still glistening. "Hard to tell. At least a squad. Could be Varric's." "We don't have time to pack up," Draven muttered, checking his power cell. Zaire sniffed the air. "They'll trace my scent. It's everywhere in this room." Draven looked at her, then toward the rear corridor. "Deck and chamber." Her ears twitched. "What?" "Plasma rinse. It'll scrub the trail. Hide, heat, scent, everything. I'm not taking a human bath. This isn't about comfort, princess. It's about staying alive." Her tail flicked dangerously. "Call me that again. Then stop acting like one," he snapped, already dragging her toward the door. She yanked free with a hiss, but he didn't let go. The bond flared hot again, crashing emotion into him, rage, pride, adrenaline. And under it, trust. Reluctant. But real. Zaire finally tore away and marched into the chamber herself. Draven followed. The door sealed behind them with a hiss. A moment later, blue-white plasma water cascaded from the emitters above. The heat was instant. So was the sting. Zyria staggered forward, claws gripping the wall. Draven braced a hand above her head, the other catching her waist. You okay? Her body trembled. Then she turned slowly, her chest pressing into his. Your blood, it's amplifying the rinse. Yeah, he said through gritted teeth. I noticed. She hissed again, fur slicked to her body, claws bunching his shirt as her knees buckled slightly. This changes nothing, she whispered. You keep telling yourself that. He murmured, his mouth close to hers. Her eyes blazed. Don't mistake the bond for loyalty, human. He grinned. Good. Because I'm not loyal either. Just dangerous. She shoved him against the wall. But she didn't let go. Zyria's claws pressed to Draven's chest, keeping him pinned to the Deccan chamber wall. Steam rose around them in shimmering waves. Her muzzle hovered inches from his mouth, her eyes fierce and burning with something tangled, anger, confusion, attraction. If you get hard, she whispered, voice like cracked thunder, I break it off. Draven chuckled, breathless. And if I already am? Her ears twitched. Her tail lashed. But she didn't move. Their skin burned, not from embarrassment, not even from desire. The plasma rinse turned every nerve into a live wire, and the bond amplified it, every vibration bouncing between them like an echo in a metal drum. Zyria's forehead dropped against his chest. You're going to ruin me, she said softly, voice trembling. He wrapped an arm around her waist to steady them both. Too late. They stood there, fused by heat, blood, and something unspoken, for what felt like minutes. Outside, boots slammed against steel. Voices barked orders in Vulcari. Zyria jolted. They're breaching the door. Draven moved fast, slapping the emergency rinse cutoff. The chamber hissed, and the plasma torrent stopped. They stepped out into the cold clinic light, steam rising from their bodies. Water dripped from Zyria's fur in glowing rivulets. Draven grabbed 2 dry cloths and tossed her one. She wiped her muzzle. We've got seconds. He shouldered his rifle, tossed her a fresh plasma pistol. She caught it effortlessly. They'll torch the clinic the second they realize you're here, he said, sliding another power cell into his weapon. And with my scent gone, hiding's not an option. No, he agreed. We stand. We fight. Zyria's markings flickered like wild lightning. Then let's kill them fast, before the bond makes us sloppy. Draven grinned as the door exploded inward. The first soldier through the breach caught 2 plasma rounds to the chest. He dropped before he could even scream. The others swarmed in, shouting in the harsh clicks and growls of Vulcari combat speech. Zyria rolled low, firing under the nearest soldier's guard. Her bolt caught him in the thigh, just beneath his armor's edge. He fell, snarling, but she was already moving, claws raking up into the next attacker's rib plate. Draven stayed in motion beside her. When she fainted left, he dropped right, firing into gaps she'd exposed. When she spun an enemy into his path, his rifle spat fire through their chest plate. They moved like one, 2 bodies, 1 instinct. The bond wasn't just a link anymore. It was a weapon. The last trooper tried to flank from the side, but Draven was already turning, already pulling the trigger. Plasma burst through the soldier's visor, and he collapsed in a heap. Silence fell. Zyria leaned against the wall, panting, her tail trembling. Draven wiped sweat from his brow. Well, that wasn't subtle. They were scouts, she said. Varric's not far behind. Draven turned to her, his voice steel. Then we finish this. We find him. Zyria's lips pulled back into something not quite a smile. You'd risk your life for my war? I already did, he said. And you're not walking into this alone. You're bound to me now, she said, half daring, half warning. Draven stepped closer. Then let the bond decide who walks out alive. Zyria's eyes gleamed. He'll be fortified. Guarded. He's always been 2 steps ahead. Not this time. She slid a spare charge into her pistol. Then we hunt. They abandoned the clinic before sunrise. The desert outside Emberstrand stretched in all directions, red sands rippling beneath an amber sky. Draven led the way, rifle slung across his back, while Zyria stalked beside him like a living flame. Her orange fur caught the early light, a beacon against the pale dunes. Draven glanced at her. "You sure about the location?" She nodded once. "Varric always circles back to his strongholds. Delta R9 is the last one he still controls." Draven pulled out a collapsible holomap. With a flick of his wrist, the projection flared to life above the sand, an aerial scan of the sector. One point pulsed on the far side of the red dunes, nestled between jagged cliffs, a half-buried ruin. He frowned. "That place was a mining station before the war. Abandoned after the collapse. Perfect cover," Zyria said. "Also perfect for an ambush." She didn't blink. "Good. Let him try." Draven adjusted his gear and started moving again. "You realize we'll be outnumbered. I only need one shot," she said flatly. "I don't care about the rest." "You should," he muttered. "You die, I die. That's the trade-off now." Zyria didn't answer. But through the bond, Draven felt the ripple of emotion she didn't voice: concern, frustration, and something dangerously close to guilt. After hours of silence, she finally spoke. "I didn't want this. The bond. The way it ties us." Draven looked ahead. "Neither did I. And yet," she murmured. "And yet here we are." They reached the ridge by nightfall. The crumbled bones of Delta R9 loomed below them, cloaked in shadows. From the cliff's edge, they could see movement, turrets scanning in lazy arcs, guards walking the broken catwalks, sensor drones buzzing through the air like flies. Draven knelt, raising his scope. "At least 24 signatures. Could be more below the surface. This isn't a scouting post, it's a fortress." "Varric's afraid," she said softly. "He knows I'm coming." "You're damn right he does," Draven muttered. Zyria crouched beside him, silent for a beat. Then, "I was his second. In rank. In other ways." Draven didn't turn to her. "You don't have to explain." "Yes, I do," she said. "Because if we go down there and this bond gets us both killed, I need you to understand why." She looked away, voice tightening. "He claimed me. Not as an equal. As a possession. I didn't see it at first. But when I questioned the Council's orders, when I hesitated to purge innocent civilians, he branded me disloyal. Called it corruption. Said my time with humans had infected me." Her claws sank into the ridge's sandstone. "Then he stabbed me in the back and fed my death to the chain of command." Draven finally looked at her. "I'm not here to die," she said. "I'm here to kill him." Draven nodded. "Then let's make damn sure you do." They moved under cover of night. Between shattered pylons and sunken pipelines, through tunnels flooded with dust and silence. Draven's every step was mirrored by hers before he took it. Every heartbeat synced. The bond was growing stronger. By the time they reached the inner gate, Zyria paused. "He's close," she whispered. "I can feel it." Draven readied his rifle. "Then let's finish this." They slipped through the crumbling archway like ghosts. Inside the ruin, flickering lights cast long shadows across fractured steel walls and ancient Crydian stone. An ugly fusion of old empire and new war tech. The air stank of oil and decay. Dust hung like fog, but Zyria could smell him. She didn't need the bond to feel it. Varric was near. Draven motioned for silence. They ducked into the skeleton of an old corridor, its roof half collapsed and cables hanging like vines. Voices echoed ahead, Volcari tongue, clipped and harsh. A patrol. Draven crouched behind a pillar. Zyria braced against the opposite side, her back pressed to cool metal. Then, the lights snapped on overhead. Laser sights lit up the corridor, painting their chests in red. From the shadows stepped a dozen soldiers, augmented, black-armored, weapons leveled. Behind them strode Varric. Taller than either of them remembered. His armor was newer, experimental, smooth and jagged at once, plated in obsidian black, his eyes hidden behind a crimson optic visor. Augment wires ran from his gauntlets to his spine like some grotesque puppet rig. And his voice. "Oh, Zyria," he purred. "You survived." Zyria stepped into full view, her pistol raised, claws flexing. "You look smaller than I remember." Varric's smile was slow, indulgent. "You always were difficult to kill. You should have tried harder." His visor tilted. "But then I wouldn't have had the pleasure of watching you bond with a human." "How quaint." Draven stepped beside her. "She saved my life. Twice." Varric made a low sound. "Yes. I imagine the bond has made things intense. But you should know, it was never yours to choose." Zyria stiffened. "What?" "The bond, dear one. You were engineered for it. You weren't chosen by fate. You were built for compatibility." Her pistol wavered. Draven blinked. "What the hell are you saying?" Varric took a step forward, the guards fanning out beside him. "Do you really think the High Council would allow interspecies resonance to form by accident? You, Zyria, were always the prototype. And now that you've fulfilled your function..." He raised a hand. The guards moved. The corridor exploded into chaos. Draven dove right, firing blindly through the haze. Plasma bolts sizzled overhead, slicing into the walls. Zyria launched left, spinning under enemy fire, claws raking through the thigh joint of the nearest guard. Sparks flew. The soldier collapsed, screaming. Draven rolled behind a broken console, his rifle barking sharp bursts. Zyria danced through the hail of fire like flame given form, striking, vanishing, reappearing. She cut one soldier's throat, pivoted on his falling body, and drove her claws through the next. Still, they kept coming. Varric watched from behind, unmoving. "Bleed them," he ordered calmly. "Let the bond consume them." Draven gritted his teeth. "He's trying to wear us down." Zyria landed beside him, breathing hard. "Then we cut through them." Together, they surged forward, no longer separate. No longer guessing. The bond was now pure instinct. When Draven stepped, Zyria was already covering his flank. When she dove, he was already firing above her. One soldier raised a heavy rifle. Zyria's claws were in his gut before he could fire. Draven spun, his rifle barrel slamming into another's jaw. And still, Varric waited. Then, with a hiss of servos and armor, he stepped into the fray. Varric moved like a storm given shape, fluid yet brutal, his augmented limbs hissing with every step. The remaining soldiers fell back, clearing a path for their commander as he advanced through the debris-choked corridor. His black plating glistened with heat and dust, optics glowing a violent red. "No," he said, voice echoing like metal tearing. "You both die." Zyria bared her teeth, her claws dripping, her breath ragged but steady. "You should have killed me when you had the chance." "I did," he said. "The prototype just wouldn't stay dead." He lunged. Zyria barely dodged the first blow, his arm sweeping with the force of a falling tower. She rolled to the side, claws slashing across his armor, but sparks flew instead of blood. His plates held. For now. Draven fired 3 times into Varric's back. The shots glanced off. Varric turned and backhanded him. Draven hit the far wall with a crunch, pain shooting through his ribs. The impact snapped into Zyria through the bond. She staggered, gasping, even as she recovered and pounced. Her claws drove into the side of Varric's neck. Sparks erupted. He roared, grabbing her by the throat and slamming her down. The ground cracked under the impact. "You feel that?" he hissed, pinning her. "That's what your council made you for. Not free will. Not strength. Compliance." Draven was already moving, lungs burning. He reached for the knife at his belt, flicked it into a reverse grip, and drove it deep into the exposed seam under Varric's arm. The augmented giant screamed, wrenching away from both of them. Zyria rolled aside, coughing, clutching her throat. Draven helped her up. his blood slick on her fingers from where he'd stabbed Varric. "You good?" he asked. She growled. "Always." The bond between them blazed alive. Every breath echoed in two chests. Every heartbeat synced. When she moved, he was already moving. When he shot, her claws followed the trajectory. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Together they charged. Cyrilla fainted low. Draven slid in from the left, his rifle's bayonet slamming into Varric's thigh seam. Cyrilla leapt onto Varric's back and clawed at the base of his helmet, ripping away a chunk of the plating. "And no one owns me!" she roared, driving her claws into exposed flesh. Varric bucked violently. Blood sprayed from the side of his throat, dark and pulsing. He twisted, smashing her against a pillar. She crumpled. The pain spiked through the bond, dropping Draven to one knee. "Cyrilla!" She dragged herself up, blinking through blood and fire. "He's not done!" she rasped. Draven rose with her. "Neither are we." Varric snarled, one eye dimmed, blood pouring down his armor. "Pathetic," he growled. "You think love makes you strong?" Cyrilla's head tilted, blood in her teeth. "No. We make each other strong." Draven raised his rifle. Cyrilla raised her claws. And they struck together. Her claws drove through Varric's chest from the front. Draven's bayonet slammed through his spine from behind. Varric convulsed, optics flashing wild. He gasped, choked on his own blood. Cyrilla leaned close. "You were never my mate!" And she ripped his heart free. Varric collapsed like a mountain brought low, crashing into the ruined stone with a final thunderous crack. Silence fell. Cyrilla stood over the corpse, panting, glowing, trembling. Draven moved to her side, his hands already searching for wounds. She leaned into him, just a little, and whispered, "We're not done yet." From deeper within the ruins, alarms blared. Cyrilla's ears flicked. "The Council knows." Draven's jaw tightened. "Then we end them too." The alarm pulsed like a heartbeat through the ruins, shrill, urgent, unrelenting. Somewhere deeper within the compound, ancient systems were coming online. Draven felt it in his bones. And through the bond, he felt Cyrilla's instincts shift. She wasn't just angry anymore. She was afraid. "They triggered a failsafe," she whispered, eyes fixed on the dark corridor beyond Varric's body. "He wasn't alone here." Draven reloaded his rifle. "Back up?" "No." Her voice was colder now. "Something worse." They moved deeper into the compound, past the smoking wreckage of Varric's throne room. The walls here were smoother, newer. Recent construction fused with old Crydian stone, a style reserved for high-ranking council installations. Cyrilla's breath quickened as they descended a narrow ramp into what looked like a sealed vault. The door ahead hissed and split down the center, revealing a chamber bathed in sterile blue light. Inside, consoles lined the walls. A cylinder of reinforced glass stood at the center, filled with pale green fluid. And floating inside, a figure. Half-formed. Humanoid. Clearly Vulcarian shape, but smaller. Limbs twitching faintly beneath the surface. Its orange fur was already growing. Draven felt the sickness hit first. Cyrilla stepped forward, breath catching. They were making another. He looked at the monitors. Genetic code. Neural maps. Cross-species compatibility algorithms. The screen labeled it plainly. Project Bond, Subject 014C. Status, Stabilization 68%. Donor Z, RAN, Experimental Class. Cyrilla's claws curled against her palms, drawing blood. "I wasn't born to bond," she whispered. "I was grown for it." Draven read through the entries, his expression grim. "You were never meant to survive past the testing phase. Varric was supposed to monitor, report, and terminate." Cyrilla stared at the tank, her face unreadable. Then Varric's voice echoed through hidden speakers, recorded, cold, and cruel. "Subject 014C shows higher tolerance than previous iterations. Her time among humans has accelerated her emotional responsiveness. The bonding process is viable. However, her independence poses a risk. Termination protocol recommended. Zyria stepped back as if struck. Draven caught her arm. You're not their tool. Her jaw trembled. Everything. My instincts, my emotions. It was all programmed. No, he said firm. That's where they failed. Because you chose. You broke away. And you bonded with me by choice. She looked at him, searching. He stepped closer. You're not what they made. You're what you became. The alarm shifted tones, something deeper. A tremor shook the floor beneath them. A hologram sparked to life above the chamber, revealing 5 towering figures seated in grotesque mechanical thrones, faces shrouded by helmets and cables. Their voices echoed in one unified tone. Prototype 014C, Subject Rain. You are in violation of your function. Zyria's fur bristled. Show yourselves. You were created to establish the viability of controlled interspecies bonding. You have deviated. You are corrupted. Draven aimed his rifle at the holograms. You sound scared. We are beyond fear. Your existence is irrelevant. Our fleet arrives now. All will be corrected. The hologram vanished. Zyria's markings blazed white-hot. They're coming. Draven turned to her. Then we take this data. We find the rebels. And we burn their throne to the ground. Zyria stepped to the tank, raised her claws, and sliced through the cables. The fluid hissed as the cylinder cracked, spilling the incomplete clone to the floor. She stared at it for a long moment. Then whispered, "Never again." The rebel outpost was hidden inside the rusting carcass of a derelict mining rig, camouflaged by sandstorms and a broken terrain of jagged cliffs and collapsed dig sites. Draven and Zyria arrived just after nightfall, both covered in dust, blood, and silence. The guards at the gate raised their rifles until they recognized Draven. When their eyes landed on Zyria, orange fur glowing faintly in the dark, they hesitated. "She's with me," Draven said, voice like steel. "She saved my life." The commander of the outpost, a hard-eyed woman named Kess, met them in the hollowed-out command chamber. She looked at Zyria with open distrust. "We've heard the Council's mobilizing. Their fleet's already in the outer system." "They are," Draven confirmed. "And we've got something they don't want us to know." He activated the drive from Varric's lab. Blue light danced over the projection. The Project Bond data. Experimental design. Neural compatibility trials. Weaponized emotions. Zyria's name stamped across every screen. Kess leaned back, her jaw tight. "Gods! They didn't just experiment," Draven said. "They engineered a new kind of soldier. And now they're deploying their fleet to cover it up. The orbital fortress," Zyria added, stepping forward. "It's where they control the signal. Shut it down, and their command web fractures. They'll lose fleet coordination. Vulnerable." Kess rubbed a hand across her face. "The fortress is shielded. We've tried breaching before, lost 2 wings of pilots. We found a structural weak point," Draven said. "Power stabilizers near the equatorial ring. Overload them, even briefly, and the shield drops. Long enough for a boarding strike." The commander looked between them. "And you two are volunteering?" Zyria's voice was low. "We're already bonded. We fall together." Kess muttered under her breath. "You're both insane." "Probably," Draven said. "But we're your best shot." By morning, the rebel fleet had formed. Zyria stood on the edge of the launch platform, claws tracing faint lines into the hull of the drop ship. The wind whipped her mane around her face, her expression unreadable. Draven stepped beside her. "You don't have to prove anything to them." She didn't look at him. "I'm not." "Then to who?" "To myself." He nodded. "Then let's end this." Inside the ship, rebels strapped in. The pilot, a quiet man with scars in the shape of claw marks across his cheek, gave Draven a nod as the engines roared to life. Zyria gripped the side rails, and for the first time, her eyes weren't on the mission. They were on him. If we don't make it, we will. And if we do. He stepped in close, voice just for her. Then we find somewhere no one owns us. And we burn every lab like the one that made you. Her eyes flared. The bond pulsed bright. Then the drop ship surged forward, into the void, toward the fortress that pulsed like a great dark star above the world. The stars screamed past the cockpit window as the rebel drop ship dove into chaos. The Council fleet had already arrived, dozens of black dreadnoughts in perfect formation, bristling with plasma cannons, encircling the fortress in orbit like a pack of wolves guarding their den. The rebel strike group cut a desperate line through them, smaller ships swarming like hornets. Plasma fire laced the void. Shields flared and collapsed. The rebel flagship exploded off their flank, the light blinding for an instant. Inside the drop ship, Zyria gritted her teeth, claws embedded in the wall as the hull rattled under enemy fire. "We've got one shot at the breach," the pilot shouted. "Stabilizers hit in 5, 4. The targeting system chimed. Draven turned to Zyria. "You ready?" Her eyes glowed molten orange. "Always." The stabilizer tower erupted below them as rebel bombers struck, massive energy surging outward in a wave of white-hot flame. "Now!" the pilot roared. The drop ship nosedived. They plunged straight through the collapsing shield bubble. Inside the field, gravity snapped back like a whip. The ship lurched violently. Alarms screamed. Bulkheads groaned. "We're hit! Landing gear's gone, brace for impact!" Draven grabbed Zyria and pulled her close just before the ship slammed into the fortress hull with a grinding explosion of metal and fire. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Smoke filled the cabin. Bodies shifted, groaned, or fell silent. Draven kicked the hatch open. Zyria leapt through first, landing in a crouch, her pistol already firing. The hangar bay was full of defenders, soldiers in Council black, their armor lined with red veins of power. The battle began instantly. Zyria moved like a demon, claws shredding through exosuits and soft parts of armor. Draven moved with her, rifle shots aimed and clean, every step predicted by the bond before he made it. One soldier tried to flank them. Draven spun, already knowing Zyria had caught the movement. She dove low, swept his legs, and Draven finished him with a bolt to the neck. It was no longer just teamwork. It was harmony. The hangar floor ran slick with blood and burning metal. Rebels poured in behind them. But Zyria's focus narrowed. She could feel it, like static in her fur, like heat on the back of her tongue. The Council was waiting. She grabbed Draven's arm, yanked him toward a central corridor. "This way. I can feel them." "How?" "The bond," she said. "They're connected to it. They made it, remember? They ran deeper into the fortress, leaving the battle behind them. The structure was built like a hive, all sterile corridors and humming floors, the air too clean, too quiet. Then the doors opened. And there they were. 5 thrones of steel and obsidian. Each one occupied by a figure more machine than flesh. Tall. Unmoving. Markings etched across their bodies in black light. Their voices rang as one, layered and cold. "Child. You return. As does the failure beside you." Zyria stepped forward, claws out, markings blazing. "I'm not your child," she said. "I'm your reckoning." The Council thrones pulsed with crimson energy, cables thick as serpents coiling into the walls behind them. Their voices boomed, not spoken, but projected directly into the mind. Prototype 014C. You were not authorized to bond beyond controlled parameters. Zyria's claws scraped the steel floor with a shriek. "I wasn't authorized to live either, was I? You were designed to prove the bond's viability, not challenge its architects." Draven stepped beside her, rifle aimed. "Funny. You sound nervous for a bunch of demigods strapped to chairs." The central figure, taller than the others, its face a mask of polished chrome, raised one hand. Energy flared from the chamber's center, slamming into both of them. Draven was thrown across the floor. Zyria screamed, her body locking mid-stride as arcs of pain seared down her spine. The bond flared uncontrollably, her agony becoming his rage flooding back into her. This is what your defiance earns you. Draven forced himself up, knees trembling. Zyria! She was on her hands and knees now, glowing brighter than ever, but struggling to rise. The Council's psychic grip pressed down like gravity multiplied by hate. Surrender. You were never meant to survive outside our command. Zyria snarled through her teeth, trembling. Then maybe, that's exactly why I did. With a cry, she forced herself upright. Power pulsed from her markings like a solar flare. Her claws flexed, and she drove them into the floor beneath her, channeling the bond. Draven felt it immediately. The pain dulled. The pressure lessened. And in its place, clarity. The bond wasn't theirs. Not anymore. Draven raised his rifle again. You built her in a cage. She broke out. You will both be broken. The voices intoned. Then come down and try it. The central throne moved, rising with a hiss of hydraulics. The figure within stepped down, cables detaching, armor unfolding into long, bladed limbs. A shadow tightened in the shape of power unchecked. You're not gods, Zyria said. You're cowards in suits. The thing rushed forward. Draven rolled left, firing a full burst into its flank. The rounds ricocheted, but the impact staggered it. Zyria dove low, claws slashing for the exposed joints behind the knee. Sparks flew. She twisted, backflipping off the blow that followed and landed beside Draven. Their armor's neural synced, he muttered. We hit them too fast for their implants to catch up. Then we don't stop moving. The council chamber erupted into chaos. The other four thrones came alive, projecting waves of kinetic force that warped the walls. But Zyria and Draven were already moving as one. She sprinted along the walls, leaping between columns. He dropped to one knee and fired suppressing shots, cutting off angles before they could react. One of the council figures charged them, half machine, half death incarnate. Zyria dodged beneath the swing of its blade arm and slashed deep across its back. The bond sang with the blow, guiding Draven's next shot perfectly, directly into its exposed core. It fell, screeching. 3 left. Draven was bleeding now, his side torn open from a psychic blast. Zyria's chest heaved with effort, one leg dragging slightly. But the bond kept them standing. When she moved, he did. When he faltered, she was already behind him, claws flying. The third fell with a synchronized strike, Draven's bayonet through the eye, Zyria's claws through the ribs. The last two surged together, but too late. Zyria caught one midair and ripped its throat free. The other turned to run. Draven raised his rifle, and Zyria stopped him. She stepped forward. This one's mine! And she crushed the last with the full weight of the bond unleashed, her body glowing white gold, a goddess of fury and flame. She tore the throne from its mount and flung it into the wall. The chamber trembled. Silence followed. Only one throne remained. The central figure, bleeding, flickering, stumbling. Zyria stood over him. You tried to own me. Draven joined her. You failed. Together, they raised their weapons and ended the council. The last blow echoed through the chamber like thunder in a tomb. The central councilor's body twitched, sparks flaring from shattered implants. Then it slumped forward, lifeless, smoke curling from the seams in its armor. All 5 thrones were broken. Crushed. Burned. And yet the fortress still trembled, more than before. Zyria swayed slightly. Draven caught her by the waist. Something's wrong, she muttered. The walls vibrated, and overhead lights began to flicker red. Alarms returned, this time not as warnings, but as death knells. Draven turned toward the nearest console. The screen flickered to life, data pouring in across the interface in broken lines of Vulcari script. Self-destruct, he read. Triggered by command collapse. The whole station's rigged to wipe itself if the council dies. How long? 7 minutes. Maybe less. Zaire hissed. Is there a way to shut it down? Not from here. He slammed a fist into the console. It's hardwired into the power core. We need to override it manually. From inside the reactor chamber. She grabbed his arm. Then let's go. He looked at her. Zaire, that room's a death trap. You'll be cooking in radiation before you reach the override. Her expression didn't change. We do it together. Just like everything else. They moved fast, weaving through burning corridors and collapsing bulkheads. The fortress was eating itself alive, doors jammed open, pipes bursting with steam and fire. Bodies lay where defenders had been caught unaware, their armor blackened or melting. Through it all, the bond burned between them, hotter, sharper than ever. It didn't just share thoughts and pain anymore. It carried memory, will, defiance. They burst into the core chamber. A massive column of roiling blue energy spun above a chasm lined with metal rings and pulsing coils. Heat radiated off it like a sun. The override panel was mounted to a hanging gantry across the chamber, already sparking from a previous blast. Zaire didn't hesitate. She jumped to the nearest catwalk and started climbing. Draven followed, his skin already burning from the radiation wash. The console came into view, shattered but functional. Barely. Draven reached for it. Zaire stopped him. No, she said. You've done enough. He shook his head. You're more exposed. I'm built for this, she said softly. Literally. Remember? He stared at her, heart pounding. You're not a weapon, he whispered. I am, she said. But I'm your weapon now. She kissed him, hard, fierce, final. Then she turned, slammed her claws into the override console, and tore through the housing. Sparks showered her body. Alarms went critical. Draven watched as she ripped out the fail-safe matrix with bare claws, exposing the control node. She plunged her hand into it. The chamber shrieked. The core pulsed once, twice. And then went still. A dead silence followed. Then emergency lights flickered green. System shutdown confirmed. The fortress stopped collapsing. Zaire collapsed into Draven's arms. He caught her, dragging her from the console. Her body was seared, fur scorched in streaks, markings dimmed to embers. But her chest still rose. You did it, he whispered. We're still here. She managed a smile. Then let's get out before it changes its mind. They moved like ghosts through the dying fortress. The halls were silent now, no footsteps, no alarms, no voices. Just the deep, rhythmic hum of backup systems failing one by one. Lights flickered overhead. Fires crackled through bulkheads left untended. The structure was slowly decomposing without its masters. Zaire leaned against Draven, her movements slower now, heavier. Her fur was singed, and her claws still trembled from channeling raw current through the override core. I'm fine, she muttered. You're not, he replied. But I will be. Draven didn't argue. The bond between them said more than either voice could. He felt the pain seeping into her bones, the radiation backlash poisoning her blood. But he also felt her fire still burning, raging even. She wasn't finished. They reached the hangar bay where the rebels had carved their way in earlier. The place was littered with husks, burned drop ships, mangled bodies, smoldering weapons. And in the center, still powered and untouched, was a single stolen enemy transport. Draven scanned it. She's space-worthy. Barely. Zaire collapsed into the co-pilot seat as he powered the engines. Good. Because I'm not dying in orbit. The ship lifted off just as the first outer ring of the fortress gave way, collapsing into the void behind them. The explosion painted half the horizon with fire. The shockwaves slammed into the ship and sent it spinning. Draven wrestled the controls, swearing, stabilizing just in time to avoid being ripped apart by debris. They broke into open space just as the rebel fleet descended. Zaire turned her head weakly toward the viewport. Dozens of ships filled the dark above them. Scavenged carriers, ancient bombers, repurposed freighters now loaded for war. Behind them, the black fortress cracked apart, shedding its throne room, its shields, its pride. On every comm channel, a voice echoed. Kess. This is Commander Kess. The Council is dead. I repeat, the Council is dead. Cheers erupted over the static, shouts from human lips, Volperi, even alien tongues long silenced under Council rule. Zaire closed her eyes. Draven reached over, gripping her hand. You did it. We did it, she whispered. Then softer. They made me to be a weapon. A cage. A leash. He looked at her. Then let's never be leashed again. She opened her eyes. Her markings pulsed faintly, just enough to glow against her orange fur. Draven, if we keep this bond, if we stay fused like this. He leaned closer. What? She hesitated, then whispered. We'll never be able to undo it. He smiled. Good. Their foreheads touched. Out the window, the stars burned like 1,000 fresh tomorrows. The wreckage of the old empire drifted silently, crumbling into dust. But two souls rose from the ashes, scarred, glowing, stronger than anything the Council had ever built. The war was over. The bond remained. And the galaxy would never be the same.